Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. Now, these guys are a gypsy brewery. I've heard very good things about their beers, but it's a brewery that I've just never really come across until fairly recently. It's been a little bit difficult to try and get a hold of any of their cans. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their more popular ones. It's supposed to be very nice. I've heard great things about this, so I think it will be a really interesting one to pop the cherry when it comes to this brewery. So certainly curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head through to Glasgow once again, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from Up Front Brewing. So this particular beer is called Ist Techno Sex. It comes in at 5.4% ABV, and this one is a Gose. So this beer has been brewed with passion fruit and key lime, along with some Himalayan salt and Indian coriander seeds, with a little bit of Citra dry hopping in there as well. And it was originally brewed as a collaboration with the Doghouse bar from Brewdog through in Glasgow. So yeah, it kind of explains the sort of random nature of this beer, I guess we could say. But like I say, this one has very good ratings. I believe it's one of the most checked in beers from this brewery on Untappd. So I think this is a very good place to start off with my Up Front Brewing reviews. They do have a few beers doing circulation in Glasgow, so I will need to see about getting a hold of some of the other ones and reviewing a few different styles for you here on the channel. But very cool to finally get around to introducing this brewery to you here on the channel actually. So yeah, das Ist Techno Sex, a 5.4% Gose with passion fruit, key lime, Himalayan salt and Indian coriander seeds. One of the most random beers I've had on the channel in quite a while actually, maybe ever, come to think of it. But yeah, let's crack on with this and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Up Front Brewing. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly at the moment because I am at home in the motherland of Scotland for a little while. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Up Front Brewing. So Up Front Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are a gypsy brewery based in Glasgow, and the company was founded by Jake Griffin, who has a background in neuroscience and biomedicine, and he actually holds a PhD in neuroscience as well. But he started brewing in his kitchen during his university days, and then after this he actually went to be a professional brewer. So his first job was with Fine Ales over in the west coast of Scotland, and then he went on to work as the head brewer at Drygate Brewery in Glasgow from 2014 to 2017. And remember, they are basically a joint venture between Tennent's and Williams Brothers Brewing Company. They do some pretty interesting stuff actually. But during his time there, in 2015, he formed Up Front Brewing as a side project and began brewing some of his own recipes in Drygate's spare capacity basically. But apparently there's a few things in this brewery's history very early on that are quite interesting. But apparently he had managed to get a hold of some of Banksy's artworks as a student. He wanted to decorate his flat with them, but he apparently used these as collateral with Scott Williams of Williams Brothers Brewery, of course, also involved at Drygate. But he used these as collateral to get Up Front Brewing off the ground. And he also managed to get some artwork for his beers done by Stanley Donwood, who has done a number of different artworks for Radiohead as well, which is pretty cool. Apparently this came about because of a drunken email that he wrote him one night, and then the guy was really interested in what he was doing with his brewing project and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of artistry, I guess, surrounding this particular brewing brand. So Jake's been quite lucky with these breweries since the early days, I guess we could say. But he continues to operate Up Front Brewing as a gypsy brewery, and most of their beers are apparently brewed at 71 Brewing in Dundee, but they have also brewed at Overtone in Glasgow, and I think a few of the beers are still brewed at Drygate Brewery as well. And as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 25 different kinds of beer, and there does seem to be a variety of different styles in there. There were different kinds of IPAs. I saw a milk stout in there, and yeah, there were a few different things, of course, one or two different sour beers as well. But yeah, that is all that I can really tell you about Up Front Brewing for the moment. So if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that is it for your history section in this video, but quite an interesting and quite a quirky history behind Up Front Brewing, of course. But I certainly look forward to trying a few more of their different beers if I can find them through in Glasgow. Actually, I've not seen them in too many other places, come to think of it. So yeah, that's it. Let's crack on and see how we go then. So just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open up. As you can see, it is pretty straightforward. It is pretty much just, you know, a kind of shiny sort of background with Ist Techno Sex on the front. Yeah, it just tells you on the side here. Yeah, passionfruit and key lime Gose with pink Himalayan salt and Indian coriander seeds, and yeah, dry hopped with Citra, of course, as well. But 5.4% ABV, plain silver top on the can. I actually can't remember how much I paid for this beer. I'm actually not 100% sure where I got this one. Actually, I got it during my last trip home to Scotland, so it's been sitting in the fridge for a couple of weeks actually. But with it being a Gose, it will, you know, most likely be okay. But remember, these beers, Goses tend to be quite, from my memory, the modern ones tend to be quite wheaty and oaty and creamy. So I'm quite curious to see how this one will turn out, because I think this is one of the first Goses that I've had from a Scottish brewery, come to think of it. It's the, you know, the Berliner Weisses and the Goses are not all that commonly brewed in Scotland actually, but particularly the Gose, there's even less of these than there are Berliner Weisses actually. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm very, very curious to see what this one has in store for us. I couldn't find out exactly what year this beer was released, but yeah, as I said, it was brewed originally as a collaboration with the Brewdog Doghouse Bar in Glasgow. So yeah, I think part one of the Collab Fest. Collab Fest is pretty cool actually. The bars go out and brew beers with some of the different local breweries. I always think that's very, very cool. But yeah, there we go. So anyway, this looks pretty good. So as you can see, this beer is poured with a lovely 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That doesn't even look creamy. Yeah, perfect white head. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty nice. So this one, I think you can definitely say it's a lovely kind of bright golden yellow colour. You can see if I put my fingers behind it, there is a little bit of that natural haze to it, but it's certainly not the kind of soupiest and gloopiest Gose that you'll come across. I'm used to the Goses and the Berliner Weisses from the Nordic countries these days, and those ones are always big and oaty and creamy. I think you probably could argue that there's a separate sub-style these days called the Nordic Sour, actually, but this one looks as if it might be a little bit more of a kind of old school German style Gose, just with different adjuncts and things in it. So yeah, remember, the German Gose beer is basically what they used to do was they used to put it in bottles in the cellars and ferment it with the bottle open. You get a big sort of cloud of beer foam sitting on top of this sort of thing, and you know, there's a bit of salt and things in it. Usually it was a wheat based beer actually, from what I remember. I forget what city it was from, but you can actually get the Riedmeier Gose, which is a very old recipe from the original town that these Gose beers were from. I should have had a little look at my notes for that review, but if you put in Riedmeier Gose into the channel, you'll see my review of one of the original Goses from Germany. It's a lovely, lovely beer, that. But yeah, quite a salty kind of wheat-based golden beer, the Gose actually, usually just a little bit citricy and sour. But yeah, this one certainly does look like a more classic Gose than some of the more modern ones that you're going to find. But yeah, when you've got passion fruit and key lime in this one, that's not going to affect the colour of the beer all that much. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use, This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. And then any adjuncts that you put in or any barrel aging that you do are also going to affect the colour of your beer as well, particularly so when it comes to the different sour beers like, you know, Goses or Berliner Weisses, or, you know, some of the Creeks and Flanders Red Ales and stuff like this. So yeah, this one certainly does look more like an old school original German Gose than some of the more modern sour beers that you have out there these days, although this is technically a modern sour beer because of what's in it. But yeah, I don't think passion fruit or lime is really going to affect the colour of the beer all that much, so that makes sense that it's still golden. And, you know, pink Himalayan salt, yeah, that's just going to dissolve, and coriander seeds, again, they don't really have a strong natural dye in them or anything like that. So yeah, golden colour for this one. It makes sense, to be honest with you. But I think that's everything we really need to say about the appearance of this beer. I think we can have a look at the aroma and just see how we get on. I'm really curious to see what this is going to have in store for us, actually. Yeah, that's interesting. So, if you sugar it up a little bit, it shows you a few more things. But yeah, definitely, you can smell it's got quite a sort of sharp but wet fruity character to it. Absolutely, you can smell a little bit of the kind of saltiness in there too, but you also have a little bit of the kind of wheaty base to the beer, and it's got quite a bright grassy and floral character as well, so that's interesting. Let's just break this down a little bit. Actually, it's certainly, I think, compared to some of the other Goses that I've had in recent times, this one is quite close to like an old school German Gose. Definitely, it's not a million miles away from that. Even with the passion fruit and the key lime, you know, I don't think these are things that the Germans would normally put in, back in the day would have put in some of their Goses. But yeah, this one does smell very, very nice, actually. Yeah, so let's just take the beer from the base up, as we always do. So you've got a nice little bit of a kind of, you can smell there's a little bit of a bread crusty sort of thing in there, but you've got a nice little bit of a kind of fresh white bready character as well. So again, I like how that goes together. A little bit of bread crust, smooth kind of white bready character. Yeah, aroma wise, the malty backbone to this one is very nice. I do want to say there's a little touch of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity character to this one, but I think that's very, very minimal. Definitely a little bit of a white bready hedgehog bread crust, smooth white bread, and then you've also got that nice little bit of McVitie's digestive kind of biscuity character in there. It's a lovely smelling beer, this one, actually. I really like how it goes together in that sense. Yeah. Yeah, bread crusty character is really nice. Smooth white bready notes in there. Then you've also got that little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit. So yeah, I think this one goes together really, really nicely in that sense. So yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about the particular, you know, the kind of malty backbone in this one, but you can certainly smell some of that salt in there. I'm not an expert on salt, so I can't say how the pink Himalayan salt smells a bit different or anything like that, but you can smell that nice kind of saltiness in there mixing in with the bready character. And yeah, the coriander, I think the coriander character comes out a little bit more towards the back of the nose, and it mixes in with the yeasty character of the beer a little bit, because you do get a little touch of a slightly more doughy, dense bready character out of this. So for me, the sort of coriander spice is coming out of the beer at that point in time, actually. So yeah, I do like how that side of it goes together. So yeah, interesting, definitely interesting from the malty side of things for sure. I don't know if this beer actually does have hops in it. I'm guessing that it does, because it does have this one, incidentally, I just see on the can it says lactobacillus that it contains, but yeah, it doesn't say anything about whether it contains hops or stuff like this. But malted wheat unfined, no, it doesn't really say anything about hops, which is kind of interesting. But as we said earlier, I'm pretty sure it said on the Untappd website that this one was dry hopped with Citra. So if it's dry hop, that means you're not going to, you know, dry hopping gives you basically flavour and aroma. It doesn't really give you any bitterness and things like that. And you know, if you add bittering hops in the early stage of the wort boil in a beer like this, it's going to take away from the sourness a little bit. But I was thinking with this one, you do get on the green side of things, you do get quite a nice bright floral aromaticity and also a bit of a zesty grassiness out of it. That makes sense for Citra. Citra is going to give you a lot of mango, and it's going to give you a lot of lime and limey character as well. You do get quite a little bit out of this one in that sense. So for me, yeah, quite a nice big floral aromatic component, wee bit of a kind of zesty grassiness as well, but it works. It really does work quite nicely, this one actually. So yeah, malty wise and green component wise, this one is pretty good. But let's focus on the fruity side of things, and the fruity side of these beers are always quite interesting. So yeah, you can certainly smell a big bit of juicy mango from the Citra, of course, and you can tell that because it's quite oily in a lot of ways. But behind that, you've got a nice kind of soft passion fruity character out of it. I really like that. Yeah, so soft passion fruity notes with this one, definitely. And then the lime, there's quite a lot. This beer really comes across as quite zesty and limey in a lot of ways. When it's key lime that's in this, that would make sense. But Citra is also going to amplify that. Equinault would have been an interesting hop to put in here as well to kind of amplify the lime. But I think the Citra with the mango and the kind of lemon limey characters would balance it out a wee bit more. But you can smell that big citricy sour note out of this one, and that really leans towards the more limey side of the beer. But the lactobacillus is also going to amplify that a wee bit too. So yeah, this is a really interesting beer, this one. It's very, very quirky in terms of its aroma, but I certainly like how it goes together. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see how we go. You can see the beer just got a little bit more hazy there as I put the last of it in the can. But yeah, I think it's about time that we have a taste of this one and just see how we go. So yeah, this one should be nice. This is Ist Techno Sex, a 5.4% Gose with passion fruit, key lime, pink Himalayan salt and Indian coriander seeds, dry hop with Citra from Up Front Brewing through in Glasgow, a gypsy brewery, and this was brewed originally as a collaboration with Brewdog Doghouse. This one, been wanting to try this for a little while, so let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh, that's very nice actually, that's really good. So yeah, I'm going to say Up Front Brewing have made a very good first impression, and I'm going to say, as I said earlier, I suspected this would be more like a kind of old school German Gose rather than one of the big, creamy, smooth, Nordic sour beers that I've had in recent times, and I think I would stick with that. This is definitely a little bit more old school and German in its characteristics. When it's got a German name, it kind of makes sense, to be honest with you, but that is a very, very well done beer. So a big thumbs up to Up Front Brewing. I really need to try a few more of their other things to see if they're anything like this, because if they are, then I think this might be a brewery to watch over the next wee while. So yeah, this beer I think is pretty damn nice. So yeah, flavour wise, and it hits the spot for a Gose. These beers are meant to be light and refreshing, just have a wee bit of that kind of sour kick to them and a wee bit of saltiness on the back, and this one gives you exactly that. This beer is really well done and very, very kind of true to style actually. So again, a big thumbs up from me when it comes to this beer. So yeah, where do we start with this one then? So yeah, straight away with this beer, across the middle and the back there of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bread crust in there. Yeah, you get a nice little bit of bread crust, bit of a smooth white bread just sitting on top of a bit of course as well. And yeah, I think that goes together very nicely in this one, and that lingers there into the aftertaste as well. So the Gose, as I told you back in the day, it was always a kind of smooth wheaty based beer, and this beer really gives you that impression actually. It did say it contained malted wheat actually. So yeah, barley malt backbone and a wheat backbone in this. So yeah, you can feel that a little bit in the middle third of your palate. We'll focus there just now. middle third of your palate, you can definitely feel that little bit of a bread crusty backbone, and on top of that you can feel the nice smooth and slightly more dense white bready character. So yeah, it's got that nice kind of wheaty density to it, so I do like that. I have to say I do like that. So yeah, on the on top of that, I would say there maybe is, I do in the middle of the palate, I do get a little circle, and there is a wee bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of sweetness there, and it gets a wee bit concentrated in the dead centre of your palate. That's the alcohol side of the beer coming out, of course, but yeah, definitely in the dead centre of the palate, a wee bit of a circle, kind of McVitie's digestive, grainy sort of sweetness in there, and then a wee bit of a more, you know, grainy, biscuity character as you move out towards the edge of the palate. But as you come further forward, kind of on the border region between front third and middle third and back third of your palate, I feel that the salty character of the beer is kind of, you know, agulating there. It's really kind of that the salty character comes out at either end of the middle third of your palate, which is quite interesting, and that lingers into the aftertaste too, and it just gives the beer a wee bit of sort of dryness. I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about the middle third of the palate with this beer, to be honest with you. So let's focus on the back third of the palate. As I've said to you before, when it comes to sour beers, I often find that these beers are quite straightforward in terms of their flavour profiles, but if they're done right, they're just really, really nice, and that's exactly what you get with this beer. It's actually quite straight shooting in terms of its flavour profile, but it's just very, very well brewed, and you can't ask for much more than that these days. So yeah, let's focus on the back third of your palate then. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a bread crusty build up there. Base of the back third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a bread crusty note, and that feels a little bit thicker but also a little bit more grainy. Remember, bitter flavours tend to come out further back on the palate, sweeter flavours come out further forward, so you've got a wee bit of a thicker bread crusty note there. You can feel there's a bit of a thicker white bready character as well, which I certainly like. So yeah, definitely a nice wee bit of that in there. The white bready character coming out on top of that as well. So yeah, bread crust, white bread, and then I think on top of that, that's where you're getting some of the yeasty character out of this beer. But it's interesting because in that border region, on the back half, on the back third of your palate, it's definitely showing you more of that kind of coriander character. So the coriander and the bready notes just linger in there on the back part of the palate too, so that goes together really nicely. So you can see nice bit of a thicker yeasty character sitting on top of that. You can feel that the bready notes are a little bit more kind of condensed and dense together, a little bit of an almost peppery spice to it, to be honest, but yeah, the coriander kind of mixes in with the yeasty component of the beer in this one for me. So the flavour on the back third of your palate is definitely a little bit taller, you can feel that, and as you come further forward you get the wee bit of saltiness in the beer, the flavour of the beer just condenses down a wee bit on top of that too. So I think that covers everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty component of this beer, but it is, as I say, very, very nicely done. This one's a very easy to drink beer, this actually. I was a bit unsure about it when it was a 440 milliliter can, but it is, you know, just very, very nice actually. I really like this one. A big thumbs up to Up Front Brewing for this, of course. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, so back corners of your palate, there is a little tiny touch of earthiness there, but that doesn't hang around for too long. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of herbal quality, but as you push towards the kind of front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more sort of floral and aromatic for sure. So yeah, nice little bit of floral aromaticity. Yeah, nice wee bit of floral aromaticity around the front. Round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy as well, and I really like how that goes together. So yeah, nice floral aromaticity, bit of a lighter grassy sort of thing, and you have that wee bit of zestiness for sure as well. So nice green component I think on this one works really nicely and is very in keeping with the style of this beer. And remember, it's dry hops that are in this one, and Citra does have a nice big zesty quality to it, and you can also see that on the front third of your palate. So let's focus on the fruity side of the beer then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of that bread crusty build up in there, and you can feel, pardon me, a wee bit of the saltiness in there. The base of that front third of your palate is like a very light white bready note, and then on top of that you can feel that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer from the citra in this case. So you can certainly feel the oily character, that mangoey character from the citra, and then as you move into the front half of the front third of your palate, you get a lot of the kind of lemon limey character out of this one, and you can feel the more oily fruity notes are from the hops. Definitely, they are most definitely from the hops. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. In that sense, it does get a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, you can feel though the oily character, the lactobacillus in this one. That's the tartness on this beer. It comes in just behind the very front tip of the tongue, but it's actually quite mild in this. I mean, I remember when I first tried Goses and sour beers, I really didn't like them, to be honest with you. But once you get more acclimatized to them, you can really appreciate what they're going for. Yeah, so that nice kind of sour Gose character from this one, I think works very, very well. But yeah, I think that lactobacillus quality just sits behind on the front half of that front third of your palate. It just amplifies a little bit of the kind of limey characteristics. So when it comes to the adjunct fruits in this beer, the other thing to remember is that when you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it kind of suppresses a little bit of the green component of the beer, and you can feel that around the edges of the palate here. So I think when it comes to the passion fruit that they put in this one, the passion fruit sits toward the back of that front third of your palate, so you can feel that nice soft passion fruity character there. Then as you move further forward, it's got a wee bit more, some of the lime starts to come out, and I think it's the lime that spreads around the kind of front edges of the palate there. It suppresses a wee bit of the kind of green component of this beer. So yeah, I think that does go together very, very nicely in this one for sure. Yeah, I think the green component in this beer is very, very nice for sure. But the fruitiness and sourness in this is really good. The passion fruit just shows you its soft side, and the lime, I think the lime really takes the lead in this, and I think the citra is helping promote that, and also the lactobacillus is really pushing that. So this beer for me really leans towards the limey side of things, but I think it works very, very well. But the passion fruit just acts as a little bit of an anchor, and you've got those mango flavours from the citra too. This is a lovely, lovely beer actually, and I can see why this has proved to be a really popular sour actually. So yeah, this is one that you definitely need to try. Maybe you could potentially go as far as saying this might be one of the key sour beers to try in Scotland. Maybe this one and the Iron Brew sour, if you like, from Vault City. Vault City have got some really, really nice stuff, of course. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the tasting side of this beer. This one is just damn awesome. So I'll need to try a few of their other sour beers, because they did have a few berry sours and stuff like that, as well as some IPAs and as well as some IPAs and milk stouts and stuff like that. So we'll keep an eye out for those. But yeah, this is a pretty damn awesome Gose, and definitely a more old school German style Gose than the more modern ones that we're seeing today. So definitely worth a shot. So let's round off this review with a look at the mouthfeel then. So I would say that this beer is pushing toward the top end of light bodied. So yeah, top end of light bodied for me. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel overall does have a really nice, just kind of oily slickness to it, which I do really appreciate as well. So yeah, nice kind of oily slickness to this one. Big, just it has got that salty character that comes out in this one as well. It's really nice. It's a really zesty, citrusy, and slightly salty beer, this one, which is what you really expect of the style, to be honest with you. But the malty base is very smooth. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it. The saltiness is in there as well. In terms of IBUs and things, I think this one is technically speaking 0 IBUs, but I'd be surprised if it's completely 0. There's probably like 5 IBUs, maybe 10 at the most out of this one. And then the fruity side of the beer, you've got the soft side of the adjuncty fruit, a nice smooth oily character from the hoppy notes as well, and then yeah, quite a few nice wee things going on in this one. Too. It's a really zesty, citrusy leaning beer, this one. So if that's your thing, this one will be right up your street. But a very kind of old school style Gose, and it just works really, really nicely. So if you like these old school things like the Riedmeier Gose from Germany, then you will enjoy this one. But this is a beautiful beer and a big thumbs up. This is a lovely introduction to Up Front Brewing, so I need to try a few more of their beers. I think we can say that. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Ist Techno Sex, a 5.4% Gose from Up Front Brewing, a gypsy brewery based in Glasgow. Just a lovely, lovely beer that you really need to try for yourself. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Up Front Brewing, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But until the next time, it's Landon just now. Check out my social media, check out Up Front Brewing social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. It's Landon, Skull, cheers, and happy Boxing Day.